Hey everyone. Yay! Yes. Oh, you can hear me, but you can't hear Zach. That's fine. Zach, they can hear me. No, they can hear me, I think. Yep. I can moderate and do the Q&A. Let me just,
I think when my microphone went out with you, Benny, that it went out for them. So I'm just going to use my my desktop mic. I'm not going to use my good one. All right. So everyone should be able to hear me now. Perfect. Could I get a confirmation in the live chat that everyone could hear me now? We're not going to restart.
Once.
I think they can hear me. It might be on a little bit of a delay. All right, we're good. All right, so yeah, we're not going to restart the stream, guys. I'll just crop the beginning out after we publish this. But thanks for all joining us. I'm here with Beni Hakak, the co-founder and CEO of LiquidApps. I kind of threw this AMA on him last minute, so I apologize to you, Benny, for putting you on the spot. But we've just been getting bombarded with questions in the community here. I had you on the show with Yves LaRose from EOS Nation about 2 weeks ago, and you dropped a new word on people that they haven't heard and they're not familiar with, and that word is child chains, which we've recently gone with the community vote, and we renamed them liquid chains. So whenever we ask the questions, whenever we say liquid chains, we're referring to what we once referred to as child chains. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Let's just jump into the AMA. We're already a little bit late here. So let's start Benny off with some easy questions. I was originally going to ask you a little bit of a hard one, but we'll start. I got them out of order here now. Shoot. Oh, man, I'm off my game with all those problems we had. Let's start with the grants question.
Just breathe. Breathe. You're good.
All right, I don't have them in front of me. Let's start with the grants. I can't pull the question up on the animation for some reason. My software is all jacked up. But what grants or bounties can the DAPP Network community expect in 2020? And then also maybe give an extra. Why don't we introduce the grants we already announced first, and then maybe throw out a teaser or something if we have anything else planned.
All right. So I think that one of the most interesting things we did this week was launching the DAPP grant program, DAPP Network grant program, which is focused on usage grants. That's something that we've been thinking about for a while, on how do we encourage people to be using things for the first time, or to be showing the rest of the developers community how mature the services really are. And we've seen a lot of interest in these grants from many projects that have yet to unveil the fact that they're using the DAPP network, building on top of the DAPP network, and now they have one more incentive allowing them to complete the development and launch with trying to fulfill the amount of transaction needed in each grant to be getting the usage grant as a whole. So we're talking about an Oracle usage grant, VRAM usage, I think it's accounts usage. I think there's 4 or 5 over there. And I'll be happy to see who takes them first. The way we did it is by allowing everybody to participate, and the first that reaches the target gets the grant.
Any teasers for anything to come, or are we gonna have to let people just wait and hold their breath like everyone else?
You know me. I'm all for holding your breath.
We don't like to make promises. We just like to make deliveries, so to speak. Okay, next question. Another pretty easy one. Then we'll get into the tough ones. Are there plans to add more detail to the online documentation?
I don't want to sound too blunt, but this is something that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. That's something that is inherent in the work of our tech team. And the documentation is something that's growing and evolving all the time. We would like to hear from the community if they think that specific something is lacking from the documentation, something that they would expect to see there and isn't there. But generally speaking, it's one of the things that we will never get tired. You know, that's something that you always develop and grow. And the more information and knowledge you gain from people using your system, the more advanced the documentation becomes.
Pretty good.
So
pretty
I'd
good.
say yes.
Yeah, I even hesitated to leave that on there because it was a pretty simple answer, and it's like we're constantly updating that stuff. And shout out to Nat. I want to call out Nat. Everyone in the developer community knows Nat. He's excellent with the documentation. And what people don't know is he also takes super detailed like notes on calls. A lot of you guys in the community, or especially in the developer community, have been on calls with Nat and I. Man, if his documentation's half as good as his notes, then the developer community is in really good shape here. All right, I think I got 2 more fluffy questions, and then we're going to get into the ones everyone really wants to hear. But I wanted to make sure we answered all of the community questions that we could. Will LiquidApps have a presence at Consensus this year?
Okay. So last year, I think it was last year I was invited to Consensus. I went there together with Tal, actually. I think it's too early to say whether we'll be there or not. I think that if we'll get invited again, the chances are higher. But, you know, it's not about being in Consensus. It's about what we gain. From every time I'm planning any traveling arrangement, going to a conference, my KPIs should be clear before I go there. That's me personally. That's how I manage the rest of the team as well. If we see that Consensus will bring on specific answers to KPIs of the company, I'll consider it. But I think it's too early to decide.
All right. So I think we tailored that answer to, like, LiquidApps might not have a presence unless it makes sense with like a booth or something. But as far as your personal presence, I know you and I were there last year. Are you planning to be in New York City probably as a person and as networking to kind of commingle with the Ethereum community, especially?
Generally speaking, this is something we're doing. To tell you the truth, whether it's Consensus or developers conference in Japan, for example, for Ethereum developers, it all comes down to who exactly I want to meet, what are the meetups that we're going to attend, whether or not they're going to ask us for a speaking opportunity. So I'm not saying no. I'm just saying that it's really, really early now.
It is. It's the end of January. We'll cross that road, and I'm sure we'll let anyone know. Like if we're gonna have a presence there, I'm sure the community will be one of the first to know. Okay. Next
Definitely.
question. I'll just ask before I can find it on the screen. Who are your competitors?
My competitors. I'm not a competitive person in general, but when it comes to the company, I know that a lot of the community are talking about the Chainlink, Polkadot, and all the rest of the companies that are really focusing on one of the services that LiquidApps allows for. And I don't know, I'm coming from a place where saying that you don't have a competitor is a really bad thing to say, but I don't see the DAPP network having direct competition at this time. I don't think this will be the case forever. I think that having a middleware for the blockchain, having a layer that will allow and allows right now for dApps to exist and developers to develop without really caring about the actual infrastructure of the blockchain itself. And I think that this is what makes us unique. What we demonstrated, for example, with liquid oracles is the fact that Chainlink can be enhanced by liquid oracles. I think that a lot of these things will end up as strengthening LiquidApps rather than see it as competition only. A lot of these same services that are very chain specific or requires their own chain or is limited, expensive. I think that the DAPP network is actually going to help them grow and expand. And I think we'll see more of this in the next year.
All right. Do you mind if I elaborate on your answer?
Sure, go ahead.
The way I see it is that there might, like you mentioned Chainlink, that there's so many services on the DAPP network already, and the community, I'd imagine, is going to continue innovating on top of that and build services on top of services. So there's always going to be competitors with each individual service. Like there's other Oracle providers, for example. We mentioned Chainlink. But I don't think as a suite of services, as a suite of middleware, that there's I think that's what we mean by there is no competition. If there is, let us know. We would love. We keep the pulse of the community and the blockchain industry as a whole, and we're constantly looking at other people's technology and trying to improve our own based on what we learn. So if there is someone we're forgetting, I doubt it, but let us know. All right, this is
scratch my answer, Zach. Just put yours.
I liked yours better. I'm going to like the answer to the next question even more. So we kind of introduced it 2 weeks ago. Let's give the explain it like I'm 5 years old answer to this question, because we've got so many other questions to follow this one up about the liquid chains that let's start this one. Like, what are liquid chains?
Okay, so from now on, you're not going to hear the word child chain, I hope, only liquid chains in plural, which thank the community to kind of shake us and say, guys, this is really not a great name. So I'm happy that you step up. Thank you. I think Michael brought it up first. Thank you, Michael. Liquid chains. It's a blockchain as a DSP service, and it's obviously running on the DAPP network. It allows anyone to launch a customizable chain that allows you to stake for DSP and they serve in return as BPs on this liquid chain. It's an EOS.io instance. It can be a constant chain that will essentially stay there forever, or it can be a temporary chain that is being created only for a specific reason and then just destroyed, let's say. Was this elaborate enough? Because I have more, Zach.
Yeah, I think so, because the next question is, what is an example use case for liquid chains? I think you could just continue elaborating for this one.
Okay, I would say before a use case, I think that what's important about liquid chains is that much like a lot of other services of the DAPP network, it allows for, in a way, choosing a specification for the specific liquid chain. So let's say you want to use X amount of BPs for this chain. Okay, you don't need necessarily 21, maybe you want 2, just as an example. And thanks for LiquidX, all of the DAPP services, all of the DAPP network services can be utilized on top of this liquid chain. So you have a way to expand or to scale many other chains, other DApps. You can essentially run your DApp on a liquid chain and interact in between this chain and any main net you wish to interact with. For example, I can run my application on a child chain, and I can say that every 5 minutes, I will copy the information from the child chain to the mainnet, as an example. So you still have the integrity of the mainnet, but your DApp is running on a child chain, which suffers from no issues, no CPU congestion mode, no severe RAM costs, and it can be your own privatized chain, but specific to a smart contract.
All right.
Now we can go to an example.
So yeah, I think the next question kind of is an example. So I think the biggest example is going to be enterprise. Let me just pull that question up. So this question came from, I forgot to call out all the question askers. I remember this one specifically. This one is from Eosphere, from Brendan specifically, and I'll pull it up on the screen and then I will read it.
Sure.
All right. So his question is from Brendan at Eosphere. How would a private chain, i.e. an enterprise company running their own internal chain, make use of the DAPP network features, and how would we go about getting started from a private chain? So let's use the enterprise as an example, maybe, since that was the last question.
Okay, so it's not only an enterprise, because you have other enterprises that not necessarily using private chains, but this specific example, you have a company that's running their own private chain. They don't want anyone to see the information, and they want to interact with the DAPP network. That's great. But they have an issue because they can't just use the code. There's a license to this code. And this is, I think, where Brandon is getting the question, because how can you interact with DSPs without, period. How can you interact with DSPs? And the answer, I would say, lies with LiquidX and LiquidLink. LiquidLink, and this is probably, you're going to say that it's another question that I'm just going to answer right now.
I'll pull it up. Okay.
Oh, there is a question?
No, you have the question. Yeah, you can continue elaborating because it is another question that we were going to ask.
Okay, so Liquid Link is a way to create IBC, so communication between smart contract chains and generally speaking, data transfer, token transfer, contract deployment, etc. So if you want to interact with the mainnet, in that case, you would use Liquid Link and LiquidX. LiquidX will give you all of the DAPP services integrated into your chain. And Liquid Link will allow for open communication channel in between the private chain and the DAPP network. And this will allow this corporate to send service requests for these DSPs. Another way for this company to operate, it can just use a liquid chain. I'm still getting used to this. A liquid chain, and it can spin up its own customizable chain to the DAPP network.
All right, let me get this back up. Okay, since you kind of already did the LiquidX Liquid Link question, I will elaborate on top of that and say, is there any limitation to what could be connected with Liquid Link and LiquidX, theoretically, like technologically?
I would say that Liquid Link will allow you to connect potentially any chain to the DAPP network. It can be, we already did it with a smart contract chain, which is Ethereum. It can potentially be a non-smart contract chain.
Interesting. I didn't really get to work it. I forget what I was going to ask. It was like a last minute thing about Ivan on tech, but whatever. Let's continue on the questions.
By the way, it was pretty cool to get the community. The community was the one that actually got me to watch Ivan on Tech video, and I've just sent him the link to our video as a thank you before it got published today. It was really something to hear him yesterday, because I think that he said a lot of things that we relate to when it comes to the general vision of LiquidApps.
I was really surprised at the last part of his talk, whenever he said something along the lines of, we would want like LiquidApps as part of our Ivan on Tech Academy. And like, we weren't like in communication with Ivan when he did this. This is all on his own for that video yesterday. But like, we did meet with him in Korea. Like, we released, he released an interview with Beni. And then on my Everything EOS Twitter, I had a video of Ivan on Tech and Peter K, because they're the two kind of like educators in the community. And we discussed the potential to collaborate, and if Pete could like develop a course for Ivan on Tech. So it was really interesting to me to see that Ivan remembered that conversation, took it to heart. And as he was talking about LiquidApps at the end, he was like, maybe this is something that we should teach in the academy. So I guess this will fall on us following up on that. But I think Ivan is open to it, and I believe this is something that Beni would be very happy to collaborate on. So let me put this in an AMA question. Is collaborating with Ivan on Tech something that you would be interested in doing?
I think so. I think that relating to the documentation question before that, I think that you'll have enough materials together with the videos that Peter K is creating, which are amazing. I think that he'll have enough course materials regarding the DAPP network. I believe that in his case, it's going to be both EOS and outside of EOS interest. Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, the goal here is onboarding developers, making it as easy as possible to develop, and being in front of all of the developers, not just EOS.io developers either. And that's where someone like Ivan on Tech has to reach outside of this ecosystem, because we said it once, we'll say it again. This isn't just a layer 2 on top of EOS.io. It could be potentially a layer 2 on top of everything. And that means we need developers from every ecosystem to know about it and then eventually start building on it. So I'm excited to see what happens throughout this upcoming year. Let's continue on the AMA format, though. So 2 weeks ago, whenever you and Eve were on, you brought up the concept of every BP being a DSP. Nicholas Flamel, shout out to Nick Flamel. Can you go into more detail of what that would be and what the benefits would be of like or all DSPs being a DSP? Like, could you imagine a chain, for example? Let's say it's like a consortium chain where all the BPs are selected. Let's say there could be 21, whatever. But it's like it's its own chain. All the BPs are selected. Something like a Warbly type chain, or like maybe an Ultra type chain. If all the BPs like decided on like I don't know if it'd be in a system contract level or if it would just be like an agreed upon consensus among them. But if they all decided to become DSPs, like what would that look like? How could you envision that happening?
It would look amazing, first of all. But on a serious note, when we are speaking to Wax, and I think a lot of the people that are seeing this knows that Wax already announced that they want to integrate the DAPP Network services into their blockchain. One of the things that we discussed was actually the fact that if every DSP is a BP in the specific chain, this can have a lot of benefits. And what I mean by it, which is your question, is a lot of things like latency and things like even integrity of the individuals in the system can be beneficial to all sides. So think about a BP that is also a DSP. Right now, you'll have a consensus, which is not only on the DAPP network level, but also on the chain level, because they're the same consensus, right? It's the same players on both fields. You'll have an easier time to integrate VRAM as part of the RAM of the ecosystem as a whole, because again, it's the same players. One of the things I will think about one more thing. Maybe I'll remind myself that in a second. Do you want to follow up on me while I'm thinking?
I don't know what you're thinking, Benny. Someone in the chat asked, Neil Stevenson said, has Ultra reached out to LiquidApps for scaling solutions? They were at our event in Korea. I think that was public. I think there was a picture that we tweeted out. Like it was a big group of us. It wasn't just Ultra. But they're aware of LiquidApps. I don't think that's a secret. But
right.
Like the blockchains themselves are what deploy like LiquidApps. Like we don't. I don't know how to answer this question.
Well, we've spoken to them a few times. I think we set a goal for another call, since they're currently working on other things. You know, they're building their own chain, a big infrastructure chain, and I think when they get to second layer solutions and scaling solutions for their platform, I think they'll focus on LiquidApps.
Yeah,
I can't say that for sure.
Yeah, Emmanuel's great. I talk to him fairly frequently. The community manager of Ultra. Like, it's a great project. I personally like it. We can't say that. We're not going to promise anything. I guess we could say that, but we're aware of each other. I'm personally in touch with them, but I'm looking forward to the project. But like Benny said, it's early. They haven't even launched on EOS.io yet. They are currently an ERC20 token, so there's really nothing to be built currently, I guess is where I'll leave this off. But it's a project I'm excited about personally. It is a goal of mine to continue knocking on their door and letting them know of every solution that we have, because like Beni said, they're eventually going to hit a time where they need scalability, and you can't scale to millions of users without solutions like the DAPP network. It's just impossible the way EOSIO currently is. I don't have too many.
One of the things that one more sentence, and then I'll let you continue. When we're talking about sidechains or sister chains, I think I've said it before, but we will always see cheap transactions in the beginning that are getting more and more expensive the more usage this chain gains. It might be because of resource allocation. It might be because of the fact that the chain creator is not going to fund the resources anymore, not going to subsidize it anymore. So at the end of the day, every chain that is currently not scalable, very expensive, and is not, let's call it religious, so not maximalist, they will seek a second layer solution that is flexible enough to fit their needs and potentially to be able to connect them to other chains as well. And I think this is a conversation that I'm having more and more with token issuers, chain creators, and other projects, because this year, even though I've seen a decline in the number of developers versus 2018, we've seen more and more companies and corporates that are actually developing on the blockchain in stealth mode even. And I think that's only a matter of time until we see them out in the open, whether they're public chains, private chains, permissionless. There's several types, but many of the issues that we struggled with and answered are repeating it themselves. And I think that's enough said.
All right, here's where I get to finally put you on the spot. I wanted to do it earlier, but Max Schill happens to be in our chat. He will not let us go with this question. What's up, Max? And here's the question. So he says, Beni, how does it feel being a leader for objectively the best and most promising blockchain project in the world?
Max, you're awesome. And I can tell you that on a serious note, if I want to take this, you cannot be a good leader without an amazing team. Okay, I can tell you for a fact that neither me or Tal could have done that without this amazing team that is leading the way. And Zach, you're one of them, but we have, you said Nat, and there are many others, not that many, but yes, a lot of people that are working very hard to release as many services as possible, to stabilize the systems, to create documentation and explanations and videos and improvement to the website, the code, and I cannot thank them enough for the hard work they're giving and putting into this project. And I think this is what makes LiquidApps so unique and great. We are not forgetting the fact that we are a startup, not for 1 second. This is the culture that we've built. And I'm very proud of this year. And I can say that that about Tal as well, not only myself.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. For the hackathon, Beni brought the entire global team to Tel Aviv to all be in one place at one time. And the bonding we were able to have over those couple of days with the team, like we talk to these guys remotely all the time. There's the majority of the team in Israel, but then there's 4 or 5 of us all throughout the world, every single time zone. I think we from Australia to like the East Coast to Puerto Rico, and having everyone in one place and just like realizing the brilliance that the team has. And it's not just like development and like blockchain. It's like everything they're interested outside of the blockchain too. And it's all of these pieces put together that makes us like a dream team. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, we put out a superhero video on Twitter about an hour ago. So I highly recommend everyone go check out the LiquidApps Twitter channel. There's a really good video. We spent a lot of time thinking about it and crafting it, and it's a superhero theme. And I think that fits kind of the perception of the LiquidApps team. It's a perception I had before even joining the team, and as part of the team, I still feel that way. You and Tal and Rempel, like oh you guys are like Avengers of the blockchain world and beyond. And I think that superhero video of the immortal DApps and the immortal DAPP Network really fits the bill. So I just want to shout that out. Check out the Twitter. It's a great video. I don't think I'll be able to embed it on here. I'll play it another time. I had another community question. So this one's from Cam Moshi, and she actually paid $5 for this question to be asked. So I am going to ask it. Thank you so much for the super chat tip, which is how it happened. I will pull it up on the screen to give you some screen time here. Maybe.
If I would have known that, I would probably buy a lot of questions, Zach.
Yeah, they can keep them coming. Here we go. All right, it doesn't really line up right, but I'll read it. Is decentralized website hosting possible using LiquidApps solutions? Example, could I host my website 100% using a combination of services you offer?
The short version is yes, you can. The longer answer would be backend will be running on the EOS chain, mainnet, the EOS chain or WAX when that comes along. The front end will be hosted on IPFS of your chosen DSP. And we hope that we can finalize, when we finalize DNS, we or someone to the community, Liquid DNS, even the DNS address will be able to be on a decentralized platform. It will require some modifications to your front end and possibly your back end as well. But yes, using the DAPP network, I would recommend more than one DSP, a website can become fully decentralized. And you can contact us through the chat, Telegram chat, or the developers chat to get more information about this. We released already, I think it's 2 examples so far. The chess game was the latest one. Before that, it was Liquid Battles that are essentially immortal applications or decentralized website, as you called it. We did not deploy them on the mainnet, but on the test nets. So it's a bit different, but I'm sure that someone soon is going to deploy an immortal website on the mainnet, as you said, 100% decentralized. I hope this answered the question.
It's exciting. Yeah, you pointed it out, but the Liquid Chess was already like front to back. It was decentralized in that way, but I think what you elaborated on was as far as being on a public network, is that going to be possible? So you answered that good.
By the way, there is a company that I think released their beta that is Creator, and I hope I'm not mistaken, but I think they released an immortal version.
So I'm not sure if it's public, but it's kind of public. So there's like a private group that is getting bigger and bigger. I think there's like 100 people in it at this point. So it's like, it's kind of the cat's out of the bag about Creator Eco. I think it's on Kylan, but you could ask questions about that in the LiquidApps Telegram channel. We'll be able to elaborate there more. We weren't really prepared for that question. All right, so we have another one from Scott from Hybrid Games in the channel. And he's asking, like, he's curious about what a liquid NFT service would look like, because we're talking about Wax and Ultra. Do you want to, I know I'm hesitating to bring certain stuff up that I've talked about privately, because I don't know if it's actually, we don't really talk about anything that's not built. And we have these conversations all the time. We're constantly brainstorming. So I have a hard time, whenever we're talking, like with Tao, for example, I have a hard time understanding if he's just brainstorming on something and just having this vision, or if it's something he actually plans to build. So that's why I'm tiptoeing around this question here. But what does a liquid NFT service look like to you, Benny? Let's just be broad and envision it. Your audio came out. You lost your audio. No audio. And we lost Benny. That might be the end of the AMA. We'll see if he comes back, guys. Okay. Well, guys, I'm going to wait for Benny to come back, but in the meantime, I am going to figure out how to play this video for you guys. Give Benny a minute. You guys got any more questions in the live chat? Now would be a good time to drop them while we have this minute of downtime here. I guess I could give you guys some news, huh? I didn't really plan on doing this. Let me play this video real quick, and then we'll get into that. How about that?
DApps were not always immortal. They were not always superheroes. They used to serve us. Now I am the last enemy who remains. The DApp heroes have defeated all hackers and attackers that came their way. But DApps were once mortal and vulnerable. We could hack them, humiliate them, steal massive amounts of their data. Others fell prey to censors and states and script kiddies. Sometimes we would hack them to pieces, and they would perish from the world, never to return. It was hard for them to fight back against us. Their tools were primitive and fragile. They couldn't even understand one another. At our hands, they suffered defeat after defeat. Like the apps and websites before them, they were mere mortals, until the Immortal Network arrived. Inside, those mortal apps discovered untold superpowers for the taking. They could gain powers of sight and perception. They could gain powers of speech and teamwork, powers of speed and memory, powers of immortality. They could even create new powers at will. Even the Immortal Network was safe, for it was everywhere and protected by all. The new Immortal DApps entered the world, offering people safety, protection, and inalienable rights. They offered speed and efficiency. They empowered businesses and charities and communities and individuals. They defeated us all. It was the dawn of a new era. The era of the immortal DAPP Network.
All right. How much did Morgan Freeman cost for that video? I'm not sure, but that was definitely exactly what we were looking for. Whenever we were looking for the voiceover person, we specifically said we want a Morgan Freeman voice, and I think that's what we searched for. Yeah, so I can't get Benny back in here, so I guess that wraps up the AMA. If you guys have any more questions, fire them away in the Telegram chat. I'm going to make like a transcribed version of this video. So there's going to be like a text version on the LiquidApps blog that goes over all the answers again. And then I'll add the timestamps to the video also. We'll try to do another AMA sometime soon, maybe with Tal. Thank you guys all for joining me. Sorry that we were late and sorry that we lost Benny. But go EOS, go LiquidApps, and I'll see you guys all next time.